The Crooked Epic, 1, The Inn of Maniacal Madness, 7, Alex, The Train, 7A, 1. The land of Hob is vast and expansive. Hob, the central township, is residence to men whose repudiation of America has led them to treason and conspiracy against the presiding world from which they fled. It is a congregation of tyranny. Alex had slept in broad daylight in late afternoon, but when he awakened, he was still disoriented, without enough preparation for lengthy rest, hungry, and did not know the correct time of day. It seemed early, possibly just after 1 p.m. to him, yet it was almost 5 p.m. His eyes adjusted slowly to the sun's glare as he crawled out of the hole he had hidden in, made of thorny branches and flowers. He vaguely remembered the faint noises and sounds he had heard somewhere towards the center of the maze, in the Marabar garden, while he had slept. But now there were only birds' chirps, the buzz of insects, and the call of a crow somewhere, reverberating the conifer walls with an air around him. He looked around for any traces of the soldiers who had searched the area, but the cleared walkways showed no marks nor signs of passage. Finally, he sat down further away from the spot he had made his nesting and looked at ants gathering and lining near the edge of the cement along the pathway. He was still feeling the effects of his tormentor's abuse, had not slept for more than 8 hours in the past couple of days, and his canned food diet had hardly met his standard meal requirements. He had reason to stand up, his moxie wholly exhausted. His rationale was that the organization of the enemy's search for him would be more persistent and effective than his efforts to abscond. His road to Holmes Providence was blocked while the gateway to perdition was faceted. The gamble of approximation seemed to be his only salvation as he slowly decided which way to go on his quest. Yet with renewed vigor, he set down his backpack and held out his stolen prize from Motu's warehouse. He furbished his map while hiding in the hodgepodge hedges and arboretum gardens of the Cyborium maze, and fervidly routed his emancipation. He also missed his brother Ted, and thought deeply about his father while struggling against an extraterrestrial terrain of deception and betrayal. The brochure he had taken was a single-fold pamphlet, a booklet with 4 pages that contained maps. The front page was headlined Hob and included a map of the town he and his brother previously visited, including the train station, inn, and lake. The second page contained a page dedicated to the maze, which showed the entire plot as it had been intentionally constructed. Next was an outline of the surrounding areas of Hob, the river, the church, and other landmarks with legend descriptions. The back panel had a picture of the railroad and its connected areas in the region. Alex studied the rail system and admired the workmanship which must have been involved with setting the intricate design illustrated. According to the map, the railroad at the station in Hob traveled trajectorially northeast to the oceanic or sea cape marked Knob, or southwest toward a bay and river delta on a vast sea area marked Gob. The railroad continued across the river past the inland sea until it turned east around a bend and crossed the river again at another site in the south before continuing back to Hob. Before returning to the Hob station, the northern cape made one tail of a circuit as well, but western and looped along the coast. While looking at the map of the rail-serving region, Alex compared it with the geographic area in the northeastern Americas, and there were some remarkable similarities. However, he appeared to be on the western coast. It seemed like a reasonable assumption to think the northern area was part of the ongoing expansion from Hob. There appeared to be relative age structurally in the buildings around Hob, and the people there must have needed a place where they could outsource work. The southern area near the giant ocean reminded him of the Great Lakes on the border of Canada and the United States, and the place where the railroad crossed may have been an area for resource gathering. The planet of Hob was like our own in almost every way, and it would make sense for it to follow the rules of physics and geologic formation, which Earth did. They had even seen a moon, which might have created global tidal movements, but the stars are brighter and fuzzier, which may have meant a thinner atmosphere. Considering all of this was important, he would need to know what lay at the railroad's ends in Hob and if another dimensional teleportation system existed out of this universe. Alex opened the pamphlet and looked at the two maps on either side of the inside sleeves. The right-hand map showed the topography was the outlying areas, including the cemetery, church, and ciborium. Forgetting Draken's discombobulating compass directions at the church, the train station was located on the far eastern edge of the paper, and the railroad went up and down the side of the paper. To the north of the city of Hob was the Ciborium maze and the river flowing to the left across and over to the church. In the middle of the page was the cemetery, underneath which was the long road unto Hob, and the other part of the river which flowed to it, with the lake, where they had been lost together right after Barry kidnapped Ted. For the first time, Alex distinguished the differences between the two separate rivers, which he had seen in the area around Hob. He had jumped off the inn's walls and landed on a different side of the stream, which came out of the lake in Hob, leading to the maze he was in. The southern river that flowed into the lake came from mountains in the south and continued into the forest with the waterfall and bridge, where they had heard the growling of the behemoth and walked down the brick hill to Hob, while the northern branch continued west and curled back to Knob. This meant high-altitude mountains between Gob, where the river collected tributaries, and Hob, where the water was used for irrigation and agriculture and purified in the pump stations for drinking and consumption. Down the road far west from the cathedral cemetery was the location of the pet shop, or storage warehouse, next to which lay an artificial canal with barges and dams through a zone which looked like a vast farming area, connecting at the northern river before curling back to Knob. This confirmed the distance he traveled from the portal box within the maze. The left-hand inner sleeve contained a legend for the portal box, depicting the 4 locations the portal box traveled to, and 3 caricatures of governing officials with unique inscriptions of presiding title and district office over a miniature artistic representation of the maze's interior walls. The portal box pointed to the pet shop where Ahmed and Motu had tried to hold Alex in the cage on the left side. It was symbolized by a drawing of a warehouse with high windows and a dog's silhouette above a giant door. Below the portal box was the cemetery church where the cavern was located, and Draken had captured Alex once with the Rat Witch. It was pictured with an emblem of the Ankh cross. The train station was shown on the right, where Toro and Barry had been seen, and had a railroad crossing sign. The top portals showed the inn where the dog had chased Alex on the horse up the ramp and over the wall, and the tall radio tower signified it. The 3 figures drawn on the top of the page are meant to be Draken with his hem-hem, Motu with a takia, and Toro with a zucchetto. Draken was pictured below the church and portal box and above the maze diagram, and had the inscription underneath, Pharaoh of Hob. Motu was to the left of the warehouse and had the inscription, Keeper of Knob. Toro to the right of the train station, where an inscription read, Warlock of Gob. The front of the pamphlet was dedicated to Hob and illustrated the town neatly. It showed the hill with red bricks leading through the gateway at the bottom and between the guarded watchtowers until it split in 2 and went up to the train station on the right and the inn on the left. Toward the left, the road veered around the lake and met with an intersecting street which ran across the page from east to west, and to the right it veered around the field. There were writings and legends on the front, describing the buildings in the town, but they were in another language and Alex could not decipher. Looking at the picture of the hotel in Hob, he remembered the hundreds of vehicles and cars parked around the front. He wondered if he could drive one himself, since many were abandoned and not patrolled by any soldiers when he had last been there. If he could hijack a big enough truck, Alex thought it might be possible to harness ropes around the boulders blocking the cavern, tugging away the blockage with the motorized engine's power. The multitude of risks included possibilities of being spotted and killed by guards and soldiers, apprehended trying to take control of the automobile, or chased while driving the escaped vehicle. Despite these potential negatives, his only viable hope was to attempt a heroic siege by himself. Deep within his meditation, Alex's breath were pulling loudly through his nostrils, pumping his stomach with air, and his mind was beginning to completely clear before he charged into the portal box. Suddenly, as though lulled into a trance by the chemicals in the atmosphere, Alex stood to his feet and wandered over towards the bushes to his side. There he saw a wand sitting in the tree in branches as though precariously placed there by some benevolent god. He picked it up and saw it was a thyrsus, showing the piece of red amulet perched in the middle of the fennel buds. Alex's eyes lit up as he recognized the shining diamond with the golden clasps. It's Teddy's amulet. The thyrsus itself was Dionysius' wand of divine fermentation. He remembered this from listening to Teddy at home. In the 1920s, American prohibition was implemented. It was in effect throughout this country, so Alex's bewildered reaction to the gods who were behind the work of commercialized alcoholism was predictably distrusting. Alex took the wand and strapped on his backpack and walked through the exceedingly amazing labyrinth to the garden. When he had gone around a few corners of the maze, he reopened the map and checked where it may have shown him the fastest way to Pandora's box. When he looked down at the wand, he saw his hands, map, and wand vanish. Surprised, he whispered, "Amazing," but noticed that no noise was audible from his mouth as he spoke. To be sure, though, he concentrated on seeing himself, and again he reappeared in an undetectably swift instant.